Most people wait for ETH in dollars to look exciting, then they suddenly care. But that's usually the late signal. Early rotation shows up in two places first: relative strength and market share. If you only watch ETH USD, you can be right on direction, but still miss the rotation. 5 quick checks and you'll know what early actually looks like without guessing. And here's the first clue: ETH priced in Bitcoin. When ETH BTC stops bleeding, steadies, and holds a key area, that's normally the first quiet sign before ETH USD feels obvious. And before anyone argues in the comments, one clean definition, because people use rotation to mean 10 different things. Rotation is simple. It's just capital shifting from one part of the market to another. It doesn't mean everything moves together, and it doesn't happen on a schedule. It's like moving the ball up the pitch, defense to midfield, to the forwards. It really jumps straight to the finish unless you're playing a long ball game. A common order is Bitcoin leads, then Ethereum starts taking the share, and only after that the wider alt market gets room to move. And that's why we start with ratios and dominance. They usually shift before any headlines that you come across in your timelines. So right, if rotation is real, it has to show up somewhere measurable, and ETH BTC is usually where it whispers first. So this is the ETH BTC on the monthly, and all it is, Ethereum priced in Bitcoin instead of dollars. Why it matters? Because it tells you whether ETH is gaining ground against Bitcoin, even if both are rising or falling in USD. What you're looking for here isn't excitement, it's whether selling pressure has stopped dominating. ETH USD is like the match score, and ETH BTC is like the league table. You can win a match and still be sliding down the table. So if ETH BTC is weak, ETH can rise in dollars and still lag Bitcoin. And ETH BTC starts holding and lifting, rotation becomes more believable. Now most people eyeball this and start making up levels. The overlay that fixes all of this is volume profile. And before you start worrying about what volume profile means, let me explain it. Volume profile looks complicated, but it's pretty straightforward. Basically shows where the market did the most trading historically. So if you think of it, it's like a map of busy zones where price spent the most time and where it didn't. And coming back to that football analogy, it's like a match heat map where most of the action lives in certain areas of the pitch. Volume profile is basically a map of where the market did most of the business. And there are 3 labels worth knowing: value area low, or VAL, and that's the lower edge of the busy zone; point of control, or POC, that's the price where the most trading happened; and value area high, or VAH, that's the upper edge of the busy zone. A busy zone is where the market agrees. Outside it, price tends to move quicker. So if ETH BTC gets back above value area low, or VAL, and holds, it's re-entering a major historical zone. That doesn't guarantee upside, it just changes the situation from drifting lower to hold a meaningful area. And if ETH BTC loses value area low, or VAL, and can't reclaim it, this signals weakness because it's no longer holding inside that high activity zone. And if ETH BTC is improving, cool, but the market has to confirm it. Dominance tells you whether ETH is actually taking share. Now Ethereum dominance is not price, it's Ethereum's share of the total crypto market. So when ETH dominance rises, ETH is gaining a larger market share. And this matters because ETH can look boring in dollars but still gain share if capital is leaning towards it. Now dominance often moves like a grind, and that's exactly why it's useful. So these are reference zones and not fixed magic numbers. It's just a way to keep yourself honest across cycles. So below 9%, rotation tends to stay narrow. Ethereum isn't really taking share, and between 9 to 10.5% there's early improvement. Ethereum starts leaning back into the conversation. Now 12 to 13% it starts get interesting because you find a stronger phase here, and this is where broader participation tends to show up more often. Now 15% and above, Ethereum led phases become clearer historically. It's usually when alts get more breathing room too. And I posted these zones in a thread back in 2025, and I'll flash it here on the screen because it's a bit of a handy cheat sheet to keep. Now if you want, you can just basically pause the video here, take a little screenshot and note these down, and just use these as a reference point. Now, like I said before, they're not magic numbers, but they are like reference zones, and that's what I like to use. Yeah, when we do get a quick spike, it does create a bit of noise, everybody does get a bit happy, but what's usually better is looking at a weekly close. Holding the zones is what matters. And it will be even better if those were to close in consecutive weeks. Now, we've got relative strength and market share. So let's look at ETH USD on the weekly, not to predict, but just to give you an example to see whether selling pressure is still leaning on it. Just a quick pause because a lot of people ask where the learning resources are. On the Markets Unplugged website, the free section starts with technical analysis, start, smart, TA, and the wider TA learning guides. So you can build a proper base and understand price action and market phases without guessing. Then there's fundamentals and macros, start, smart, FA, crypto fundamentals, and crypto economics, plus the crypto glossary if you want definitions in one place. If you want a clear walkthrough to start with, there's a full beginner guide on how to do fundamental analysis in crypto and technical analysis, and a separate hub for Bitcoin on-chain indicators with straightforward explainers and examples. And if you want tools, there's a free DCA calculator and the bubble rotation map. And if you like listening to audio podcasts, the Crypto Unplugged podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and all your favorite podcast apps. And if you want the full member experience, Alpha Insider is built around weekly detailed member videos and Q&As. It goes beyond what we can cover on YouTube. The weekly members videos and Q&As are longer and more detailed, and they're built around the actual levels and timing notes for the weeks, with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoin key levels and the reasoning behind them. DCA in and out levels mapped using technical analysis and Fibonacci levels, plus timing analysis using Kairos, so plans are made early rather than late. You also get access to the private members Telegram group with several channels for market updates and real-time discussions, where the team and community share daily content on events, analysis, and what's developing across the crypto market. You can find a link in the description. And now let's get back to the video. So ETH USD on the weekly, not for prediction, but for behavior. When price holds a clear weekly range and stops repeatedly breaking lower, that suggests aggressive selling isn't dominating. You're not looking for drama, you're looking for control. If ETH BTC is holding, dominance is improving, and ETH USD is behaving. The combined picture becomes harder to ignore. Now the real question, is it just ETH doing a solo lap, or can the rest of the market participate? That's where TOTAL3 and others come in. TOTAL3 is the total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's a proxy for the broader altcoin market. When TOTAL3 holds important areas, it suggests capital hasn't fully stepped away from alt exposure, not to the level that we can say that alts are actually melting faces, just that participation isn't collapsing. And others goes one step further. It excludes the top 10 assets, so it's a lens on a higher risk end of the market. The key takeaway isn't speed, it's whether the market is defending or weakening. If TOTAL3 and others are stable while ETH BTC and dominance improve, it's a much healthier backdrop for a broader rotation. And to make that practical, this is how participation usually filters through market caps and the altcoins that you are holding or have held. Most people don't think in charts, they think in coins. And when rotation expands, it usually spreads by market cap. Not always, but often enough to be useful. So high market cap examples, like XRP, Chainlink, SHIB, Dogecoin, Ondo, Pepe, Near Protocol. You've got loads of them. And mid-market cap examples, AKT, AIOZ, Arcam, Pendle, HNT. As for lower market cap examples, Rio, Cpool, KeyCat, and some of your other lower degen tokens and coins as well. So this is why TOTAL3 and others matter. They show whether capital is staying engaged beyond the biggest names or quietly pulling back. And one last thing, long range context, not a prediction chart. A reality check on where ETH sits versus BTC over time. This is the Flippening Index. It tracks Ethereum's market cap relative to Bitcoin. Now I don't use this to predict a flippening, I use it as context where Ethereum sits versus Bitcoin across longer periods, especially when the narrative is loud one way or the other. Okay, so let's get into this. Checklist time. If you remember nothing else, remember the order of these checks. It should keep you out of that headline mode. So look, the scorecard. First things first, number 1, ETH BTC holding a key long-term area. Secondly, ETH BTC holding above the volume profile floor zone above the value area low or VAL. Third, ETH dominance rising through reference zones that are clearly mentioned earlier and are referred to in my tweet from 2025, and holding, not just closing on the weekly spike, but actually holding, preferably closing a number of weeks. And then ETH USD holding its weekly range without repeated weakness. And last, TOTAL3 and others staying stable enough to support broader participation. Now, none of this guarantees what's going to happen next, but it gives you a cleaner way to read rotation without relying on headlines and without overthinking every single candle. Point is simple. Run the same 5 checks and you'll either see rotation building or you'll see it's not showing up yet. If you could only watch one, which one would it be? ETH BTC or ETH Dominance? Drop your answers in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.